Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EU's Harmony and looked out at the stars. This was the biggest day in human history. After 50 years of listening to alien radio signals, Earth had finally received an invitation. The Galactic Council wanted to meet with humans. Jake had been chosen to command this mission because he was calm under pressure. He had served in the Earth Navy for 20 years and had never lost his cool. Today he would need all of that experience. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked onto the bridge. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. She had spent her whole career dealing with difficult people. Now she would try to make friends with aliens. "Are we ready, Captain?" she asked. Jake nodded. "The jump drive is charged. You should reach the meeting point in 6 hours." Behind them, Dr. Ben Hughes was checking his equipment for the 10th time. He was the team's expert on alien technology. Next to him, Dr. Amy Walsh was reading through her notes about alien cultures. She had studied every piece of information Earth had about the different species they might meet. Colonel Chris Taylor stood near the weapons console, but his guns were powered down. This was supposed to be a peaceful meeting. Earth had made sure to send only defensive weapons, just in case something went wrong. The ship jumped into hyperspace with a soft hum. Jake had made this trip many times in simulations, but this was real. They were really going to meet aliens. 6 hours later, they arrived at Nexus Prime. The space station was huge. It looked like someone had built a small city in space. Ships from a dozen different worlds were docked around it. Now, some looked like Earth ships, but others were completely strange. One looked like a living creature with wings. Another was just a ball of light. "Take us in slowly," Jake told his pilot. "Let them know we come in peace." The docking process took an hour. Everything had to be perfect. Finally, they were connected to the station. Jake could feel his heart beating fast as they prepared to meet the aliens. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cool air flowed in, carrying strange smells. Lisa stepped forward first, followed by the rest of the team. They walked down a long hallway. With walls that seemed to glow with their own light, the meeting room was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats arranged in circles, going up toward the ceiling. Representatives from 12 different alien species were already waiting. Jake looked around in wonder. The Zephyrians looked like living crystals that rang like bells when they moved. The Karathi had 6 arms and big compound eyes like insects. The Velkans were see-through and seemed to float rather than walk. But it was the Zerothi who commanded. The most attention? They were 7 feet tall, with scales like a snake. Their leader, Thaction, sat in the center chair. His yellow eyes looked at the humans like they were insects. "So," Thaction said, his voice sounding like gravel, "these are the creatures from the 3rd planet." Lisa stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Greetings, honored members of the Galactic Council. I am Ambassador Lisa Carter, representing the people of Earth. We come in peace, hoping to learn from your wisdom and contribute to galactic civilization." Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Thaction's mouth curved into what looked like a smile, but it was not friendly. "Contribute," Thaction repeated. "What could primitives like you possibly contribute? Look at yourselves. You are still trapped in biological bodies. You breathe poisonous gas. You eat dead plants and animals. You are barely more than animals. Yourselves?" Dr. Hughes stepped forward. "With respect, we have made many advances. We have split the atom, traveled to our moon, and built computers that can think." A being that looked like a giant spider made a chittering sound. "Split the atom. You were doing that when your species was still crawling in mud. Your computers? You have machines that can think faster than your entire species combined. And your moon," added another alien with blue skin and 4 arms. "A tiny rock that takes you days to reach, travel between stars in hours." Lisa kept her face calm, but Jake could see she was getting angry. "We may be young compared to your species, but we learn quickly. We have art, music, literature, have love and compassion." This time the laughter was louder. A creature that looked like a living gas cloud spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. "Art. You mean those crude scratches on cave walls?" "Music. Random noise compared to the symphony of the spheres?" "Love. a chemical reaction that makes you act irrationally. Thaction stood up, making him look even more threatening. Let me tell you what we see when we look at humans. We see a species that destroys its own planet. You poison your air and water. You cut down your forests. You kill animals until they no longer exist. But worse than that, he continued, you fight among yourselves constantly. You have wars over resources, over beliefs, over land. You build weapons designed to kill your own kind. What kind of civilized being does that? Colonel Taylor started to speak, but Lisa held up her hand to stop him. She knew that anything the colonel said would only make things worse. Another alien, this one looking like a tree with eyes, spoke up. Your species is violent and unpredictable. You solve problems with force. You take what you want instead of trading fairly. You are exactly the kind of species that makes the galaxy a dangerous place. Dr. Walsh tried a different approach. Every species has growing pains. We admit we have made mistakes, but we are trying to learn from them. We want to be better. Too little, too late, said Thaction. Your kind spreads like a disease. You reproduce without control. You consume everything in your path. Now you want to bring that chaos to the stars. The insults continued for 3 hours. Every human achievement was dismissed as primitive. Every human value was mocked as worthless. The aliens questioned whether humans were even intelligent enough to be called a sentient species. Finally, Counselor Vex-High of the Andromedans stood up. He was tall and thin, with skin like silver metal. Have heard enough. These creatures are nothing more than violent parasites. They consume their world and fight among themselves. Now they want to spread their chaos to the rest of us. He looked directly at the human delegation. The galaxy would be a better place if your species simply stopped existing. The chamber erupted in agreement. Aliens who had been arguing among themselves suddenly found common ground in their hatred of humanity. Votes were cast to quarantine Earth forever. Some suggested worse punishments. Lisa stood up slowly. Her voice was quiet, but everyone could hear her clearly. We came here in peace. We hope to learn from you and share what little we have. Response has been noted. Our people will know how you have treated us. As the humans prepared to leave, Thaction called out one last insult. Run back to your little world, primitives. Hide in your solar system and pray we never decide you are worth the effort to destroy. The humans walked out in silence. Their dream of joining galactic civilization had become a nightmare. But as they boarded their ship, Jake noticed something. In Lisa's eyes, it was not fear or sadness. It was cold, hard anger. The aliens had made a mistake. They had insulted humanity and threatened their existence. Now they would learn what humans were really capable of when they had nothing left to lose. The journey back to Earth felt longer than the trip out. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair and watched the stars pass by. The crew was quiet. Everyone knew their mission had failed badly. Ambassador Lisa Carter had not spoken since. They left the alien station. She sat in her quarters and wrote her report. Every insult, every threat, every moment of humiliation went into that document. The world leaders needed to know exactly what had happened. When they finally reached Earth, news of the failed meeting spread quickly. The alien insults were broadcast on every television channel and news website. People were angry and scared. At the same time, aliens had not just rejected humanity. They had threatened to destroy them. President Kevin Barnes called an emergency meeting at the White House. Leaders from every major country flew in within hours. The Chinese premier, the Russian president, the European Union chairman, and dozens of others gathered in the Situation Room. Lisa stood at the front of the room and played recordings from the meeting. The room was silent as they listened to Thaction's voice calling humans parasites. When Counselor Vex-High suggested that humanity should stop existing, several leaders stood up in anger. They want to wipe us out, said the British Prime Minister. We cannot just sit here and wait for them to attack. But what can we do? Asked the Japanese representative. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. Our best weapons would be useless against them. President Barnes stood up. We may not be able to match their technology today, but we are not helpless. If something they do not expect from primitives, we can think and adapt. The decision was made quickly. Earth would not accept quarantine or destruction. Instead, they would prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. General Patricia Stone was put in charge of a secret project called Operation Silent Storm. The project brought together the smartest people from around the world. Dr. Rachel Kim flew in from South Korea. She was an expert in making new materials that were stronger and lighter than anything before. Professor Giovanni Rossi came from Italy. He studied quantum physics and had ideas about how space and time worked. Dr. Alina Petrov arrived from Russia. She was a theoretical physicist who thought about problems that most people could not even understand. But the most important person was Dr. Alan Foster. He was a quiet man from Montana who had been studying the data from their visit to the alien station. Dr. Foster had noticed something strange about the alien technology. All of their ships and machines seemed to use something called subspace. This was like a hidden layer under normal space that allowed faster-than-light travel and communication. If we can understand how they use subspace, Dr. Foster explained to the team, we might find ways to stop their technology from working. While the scientists worked on new technology, engineer Lisa Park led a team to design new ships. Instead of trying to copy alien designs, they focused on what humans did best. They made ships that were hard to see, quick to build, and worked together like a team. The military side was run by Colonel Sam Rodriguez. He had studied every war in human history and knew that the best way to beat a stronger enemy was not to fight them directly. Instead, you had to find their weak points and attack those. The aliens think we are stupid, Colonel Rodriguez told his team. They expect us to charge at them with guns blazing. Instead, we will be smart and patient. Dr. Amy Walsh was put in charge of something called psychological warfare. Her job was to study how to confuse and frighten the enemy without using weapons. She had read every alien communication they could find and was learning how different species thought. The aliens have one big weakness, Dr. Walsh explained. They think they are better than everyone else. This makes them careless and predictable. As the months passed, something strange began to happen. Earth went completely silent. All radio transmissions stopped. No ships left the solar system. The planet's satellites were moved to hide any signs of activity on the surface. To anyone watching from space, Earth looked like it had given up. The aliens monitoring the solar system reported that the humans had stopped all space activities. Some aliens thought the humans had destroyed themselves in despair. Others believed they were just hiding like frightened animals. But the truth was very different. Under the surface of the Earth, the biggest construction project in human history was taking place. New factories were built in secret underground locations. Mines were dug deeper than ever before to find rare materials. Scientists worked day and night in hidden laboratories. Dr. Foster made the first breakthrough after 6 months of work. He discovered that subspace had patterns like music. Each alien species used different frequencies, like different radio stations. If humans could learn these patterns, they could interfere with alien technology. It is like jamming a radio signal, he explained to General Stone. But instead of stopping music, we can stop their engines and weapons. Engineer Park used this discovery to design completely new types of ships. They were small and angular, covered in materials that bent light around them. More importantly, they could appear and disappear by slipping in and out of subspace. The new ships were built in sections all over the world, then assembled in secret bases on the dark side of the moon. No alien sensors could detect the construction, because it was hidden behind Earth's natural satellite. Colonel Rodriguez developed tactics that no alien military would expect. Instead of big battles between fleets, humans would use small groups of ships that struck quickly and vanished. They would not try to destroy alien forces. Instead, they would make them disappear. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity.
Humans
would not announce their presence with threats or demands. They would simply start making alien colonies and ships vanish without explanation. The aliens would spend more time trying to figure out what was happening than fighting back. Dr. Walsh worked on the psychological aspect. Fear of the unknown is stronger than fear of a known enemy, she told her team. We will become the unknown. We will be the shadow that makes them check their locks at night. After 12 months of silence, The first human strike force was ready. Captain Ellen Brooks commanded a squadron of the new stealth ships. Her mission was simple, but terrifying. She would make an entire alien colony disappear without leaving any trace of what had happened. Admiral Tony Hayes was put in charge of all human military operations. He was a calm man who had never lost a battle. His job was to coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy without the aliens figuring out that humans were responsible. As the 18-month mark approached, Dr. Foster completed his masterpiece. He had built a network of devices that could disrupt subspace across vast distances. When activated, they would shut down every piece of alien technology that depended on subspace manipulation. President Barnes visited the secret command center for a final briefing. He looked at the maps showing alien territories and the locations where human forces were positioned. In a few days, the galaxy would learn why Earth had gone silent. "Are we ready?" he asked General Stone. She nodded. "The aliens called us primitives and threatened to destroy us. They are about to learn what primitives can do when they have nothing left to lose." The countdown to humanity's revenge had begun. Soon, the aliens would understand that silence did not mean surrender. It meant preparation. 18 months after Earth went silent, the galaxy started to notice something was wrong. It began with small things that seemed unimportant at first. Mining colonies stopped sending their daily reports. Trading posts went quiet. Remote research stations failed to answer calls. The Zephyrians were the first to investigate. They sent a team to check on their crystal mines in the Kepler sector. The team found something impossible. The mines were still running perfectly, but there were no workers anywhere. The equipment was moving by itself. They were made of black metal and shaped like pyramids. They hummed with energy that hurt to listen to. Zephyrian investigators tried to approach the buildings, but their instruments stopped working. Their ship engines died. They had to call for rescue. When the rescue team arrived, they found the investigation team unconscious but unharmed. All of them had been moved to a safe distance from the mysterious buildings. Someone or something had saved them, but there was no sign of who had done it. The Karathi discovered the same thing at their farming worlds. Entire populations had vanished without a trace. The farms were still working, tended by machines that should not have existed. Food was being harvested and processed. There was no one to eat it. Captain Ellen Brooks watched the alien confusion from her hidden ship. She commanded the first human strike team, and her mission was working perfectly. The aliens had no idea what was happening to their colonies. Elon's ships were invisible to alien sensors. They used Dr. Foster's subspace technology to slip through space like ghosts. When they arrived at an alien world, they did not attack. Instead, they used sleep gas to knock out the population, then moved everyone to safe planets far away. Geometric buildings that appeared were actually human technology. They were designed to look alien and mysterious. Target acquired, reported Lieutenant Mike Chen from the sensor station. Karathi agricultural world, population 8,000. Alen nodded. Begin operation. Remember, no one gets hurt. We're not here to kill. We are here to send a message. The human ships moved into position around the planet. They released clouds of harmless sleep gas into the atmosphere. Within hours, every living being on the planet was unconscious. Human teams in environmental suits moved quickly to gather the sleeping aliens. Each alien was carefully moved to transport ships and taken to a planet that had been prepared for them. The new worlds had everything they needed to survive and build new lives. Many of the relocated aliens would later say they were happier in their new homes than they had been in the colonies. But the aliens who received reports of these vanishings did not know their people were safe. All they knew was that entire worlds were going silent and no one could explain why. The first real battle happened at the vegan trade hub. The Zerathi had become frustrated with the mysterious disappearances. Thaction himself ordered a full battle fleet to investigate and destroy whatever was causing the problem. Commander Rick Davis led the human response. His job was to show the aliens that their mighty warships were no match for human technology, but to do it without killing anyone. The Zerathi fleet consisted of 12 massive warships. Each one was the size of a small city and carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. They arrived at the trade hub expecting to find pirates or rebels. Instead, they found something that should not have been possible. human ships appeared out of nowhere. They seemed to multiply as the Zerothi watched. One ship became 2, then 4, then 8. The aliens could not tell which ones were real and which were illusions. All ships target the human vessels, ordered Admiral Krextall, the Zerothi fleet. Commander, show these primitives the power of the Zerothi Empire. The alien ships fired their energy weapons. The beams passed harmlessly through most of the human ships, which turned out to be holographic projections. The few real ships moved like they were alive, dodging and weaving through the attacks. Then the human ships began to sing. The sound was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It was based on the harmonic frequencies that the Zephyrians used to communicate, but modified by human engineers to affect alien nervous systems. The song made it impossible for the aliens to think clearly or coordinate their attacks. One by one, the Zerothi crew members collapsed at their stations. They were not dead or injured, just unconscious. Within 17 minutes, 12 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy were floating helplessly in space. Commander, Davis opened a communication channel to the sleeping fleet. Zerothi vessels. This is Commander Rick Davis of the Human Defense Force. Your crews are unharmed and will wake up in a few hours. Consider this a lesson in humility. The news of the Zerothi defeat spread across the galaxy in hours. The mighty empire that had insulted humanity so badly had been defeated by the same primitives they had mocked. Even worse, the humans had done it without killing a single alien. Panic began to spread among the alien civilizations. If the Zerothi could be defeated so easily, what could the humans do to other species? The creatures they had dismissed as animals were somehow striking anywhere. In the galaxy at will, the Velkans tried to negotiate. They sent messages to Earth offering trade agreements and friendship, but Earth did not respond. The planet remained silent as it had for 18 months. The Andromedans, who had suggested that humanity should stop existing, began to fortify their homeworld. They pulled their fleets back to defend their most important planets, but it did not help. Human ships appeared in their home system and made their orbital defense. Stations vanish overnight. Dr. Amy Walsh monitored the alien communications from Earth. She smiled as she read reports of alien leaders arguing and panicking. The psychological warfare was working perfectly. They are starting to turn on each other, she reported to General Stone. The Karathi are blaming the Zerothi for provoking us. The Zephyrians are demanding that the Council apologize to humanity. Fear is making them weak. Admiral Tony Hayes coordinated the human operations from a secret base on Mars. His strategy was to keep the aliens confused and frightened, while human forces grew stronger every day, or human ships joined the fleet. Every week, new technologies were tested and deployed. The aliens' biggest problem was that they still did not understand what they were fighting. They saw mysterious ships and impossible technologies, but they refused to believe that humans could be responsible. How could primitives who barely understood spaceflight suddenly become the most advanced military force in the galaxy? Some aliens began to think that humans had made contact with an even more advanced species. Others believed that the Earth had been taken over by ancient machines left behind by a lost civilization. A few wondered if the humans had somehow gained magical powers. None of them guessed the truth. Humanity had simply done what it always did when threatened. It adapted, learned, and found a way to survive. The aliens had given them 18 months to prepare, and humans had used every day wisely. As reports continued to flood in from across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The balance of power was shifting. The species that had ruled the stars for thousands of years were suddenly afraid of the newcomers they had tried to destroy. The age of alien supremacy was ending. The time of human ascendancy was about to begin. The moment the galaxy had been dreading finally arrived. Every alien world, space station, and starship received the same message at exactly the same time. The transmission came from Earth, breaking 18 months of total silence. Ambassador Lisa Carter appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. She looked exactly the same as she had during the failed meeting at Nexus Prime, but something in her eyes had changed. There was a coldness there that made even the most powerful alien leaders feel uncomfortable. "Members of the former Galactic Council," she began, her voice calm and professional. 18 months ago, you called our species primitives, parasites, and animals. You questioned our right to exist. You threatened to destroy us for the crime of being different. Behind her, holographic displays showed real-time images from every major alien world. The mysterious black pyramids that had appeared on abandoned colonies were suddenly active, glowing with energy that could be felt across star systems. "We have spent this time learning about your civilizations, your technologies, and most importantly, your weaknesses. Every world you consider safe, every fleet you think is invincible, every system you depend on for survival now exists only because we allow it." President Kevin Barnes stepped into view beside the ambassador. His presence sent a clear message that this was not just diplomacy. This was a declaration from the entire human species. "We did not want this conflict," the president said. "We came to you in peace, hoping to learn and contribute. Instead, you chose to treat us with contempt and cruelty. Today, you will learn the price of that arrogance." What happened next proved that humanity had not been exaggerating. Every alien ship in space suddenly found their engines shutting down. Communication networks that had operated for thousands of years went silent. Defense systems that protected entire worlds powered down without warning. The subspace resonators that Dr. Foster had designed were finally activated. The network of devices spread across the galaxy began to emit frequencies that disrupted the dimensional manipulation that alien technology depended on. Ships that had traveled faster than light for centuries were suddenly as helpless as metal boxes floating in space. On the bridge of his flagship, Faction watched in horror as his instruments died one by one. The proud Zurithi leader who had insulted humanity so cruelly now found himself unable to even send a message to his homeworld. "This is impossible," he hissed to his officers. "Primitives cannot possess such power." But the evidence was all around him. The humans had not just matched alien technology, they had surpassed it in ways that seemed magical. How could a species that still fought with chemical explosives suddenly control the fundamental forces of space itself? Dr. Ben Hughes appeared on the transmission next. He held a datapad filled with information that would shake the galaxy to its core. "Our research into your species has revealed something fascinating," he announced. "Humanity shares genetic markers with several of your civilizations." The implications hit the alien leaders like a physical blow. Hughes continued, his voice steady and scientific. "We are not aliens to this galaxy. We are your cousins, your lost relatives, the descendants of populations you abandoned or exiled millions of years ago." The truth was more shocking than anyone had imagined. The primitive humans were actually the survivors of ancient galactic civilizations. While their alien relatives had grown comfortable and soft among the stars, humans had been forced to evolve. On a hostile world where only the strongest and smartest could survive, "You called us animals," Hughes said, "but we are what you used to be before you forgot the price of survival. We are what you could have remained if you had not grown weak and arrogant." Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the entire human fleet, delivered the final terms. His ships appeared around every major alien world, no longer hiding their presence. The vessels were beautiful and terrible, shaped like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. "The old Galactic Council is finished," Morrison announced. "It will be replaced by a new organization where all species are treated with respect. Earth will have equal representation. The threat of genocide will never again be spoken against any sentient being. Most importantly," he continued, "you will learn to judge others by their actions rather than their appearance. You will remember that strength comes from struggle, wisdom from hardship, and respect from deeds rather than words." Faction found his voice working again as the humans restored partial communications. His pride warred with his survival instincts. The Zirithi had ruled space for 10,000 years. How could they bow to creatures they had considered barely intelligent? You cannot expect us to simply surrender our authority, he said, his voice shaking with rage and fear. Lisa Carter smiled for the first time since the failed meeting. We are not asking you to surrender anything. We are telling you how things will be. You have two choices. Accept the new order and learn to live with respect for all species. Or watch your civilizations crumble as your technology fails and your people lose faith in leaders who've brought this disaster upon them. The demonstration that followed removed any doubt about human capabilities. Every alien leader received a personal message showing exactly how vulnerable they were. Their private ships, their secret weapons, their hidden bases, everything was under human observation and control, but the humans also showed mercy that the aliens had never expected. The missing populations from the vanished colonies were returned safely to new worlds. The defeated military forces were released unharmed. Even the most aggressive alien leaders were offered chances to reform rather than face destruction. Dr. Amy Walsh had been right about the psychological impact. The aliens were more frightened by human mercy than they would have been by human cruelty. An enemy who could destroy you but chose not to was far more terrifying than one who simply wanted you dead. The new Galactic Compact was signed aboard. A human vessel orbiting Earth. Representatives from every species came to negotiate the terms of the new order. They arrived expecting to find primitive savages drunk on sudden power. Instead, they found patient diplomats who had clearly thought through every detail of galactic governance. As Thaxion signed the document that ended Zerathi dominance, he looked up at Ambassador Carter. How? He asked quietly. How did primitives become so powerful so quickly? Carter set down her pen and looked at the alien leader with something that might have been pity. We were never primitives, she said. We were survivors. There is a difference you never understood. You grew comfortable in your power and forgot what made you strong in the first place. You surrounded yourselves with luxury and lost touch with struggle. You ruled through fear and forgot the value of cooperation. She gestured toward the Earth visible through the ship's windows. We never had that luxury. Every day on our world was a fight for survival. Every problem required a new solution. Every threat made us stronger rather than weaker. You called us animals, she continued, but animals adapt. Animals learn. Animals survive when more civilized creatures perish. You taught us what we were, and we became exactly what you needed us to be. The years that followed brought changes that transformed the galaxy. Trade flourished between species that had never spoken before. Scientific discoveries accelerated as different forms of intelligence worked together. Wars became rare as disputes were settled through negotiation rather than force, and whenever young aliens asked their elders about the rise of humanity, they were told the same story. Never underestimate those who have nothing to lose. Never assume that silence means surrender. And never, ever insult those who might one day have the power to destroy you. The age of human ascendancy had begun, built not on conquest, but on the simple truth that respect must be earned, not demanded. The galaxy had learned its lesson about the quiet ones who choose their battles carefully. Earth was no longer silent. It had found its voice, and the stars would never be the same.